Mock Monday, Mock Monday. Hold on, check. It's Mock Tuesday, Mock Tuesday. Yeah, hold easy, easy. Obama's kissing LeBron. I got my selfie real quick, selfie. Here we go, easy. I gotta pick my nose. My toes are smelly. I'm about to let one rip. The farts are loose. Yeah, here we go. Without further ado, let's get into the mock draft. No more audibling. We got the Tennessee Titans here. They are going to be selecting. We're going to go team by team as well with Jordan Tyson, Colton Hood, and Joshua Joseph. We get 2 Tennessee Titan volunteers to come onto this squad. They need some help. They need much volunteering. Colton Hood, Joshua Joseph, certainly going to help them out on the defense side of the ball. They need cornerback really bad, and they need edge depth really bad. Oh, they need starters at both positions. And then wide receiver, they need starters there too. So just trying to get BPA and doing what we can. And I felt like where we were at this point, I get it. You can't see. That's the one knock of doing this way on this template is you can't see who was available. But for me personally, I think there were some solid values for where we're picking, even though you could say Jordan Tyson at number 1. How is that kind of crazy? Wide receiver at number 1 overall. I get that. But to me, Jordan Tyson, this football team, and getting a number 1 wide receiver is so critical. I would say try to trade down if you can. If you can trade down, then pull maneuvers. Even if you don't win the trade, if you can get 2 second rounders from somebody, then I would be looking to do that even as such. But I think that there's going to be a team looking to move up and be selecting a Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, Ty Simpson, etc. to get a quarterback, which would make sense for this team to trade down if they're picking at number 1. There's going to be no trades in this mock draft. We typically just do trades on Mock Monday. With this one, though, it's going to be a template, and we're rocking with it. I'm cool with it, though, either which way. Jordan Tyson, Colton Hood, Joshua Josephs. Overall, try to do what I can to improve the roster here. On to the dog pound. The Cleveland Browns. I'm selecting quarterback here, Fernando Mendoza, the Hoosier, who has been so clutch. And it's in critical moments, Mendoza's consistently stepped up. That's what this team needs. They need a quarterback that can consistently step up for this team and get the job done. Mendoza can do that. Now, I mean, it wasn't a perfect game going back to the Penn State, but he's had some slip-ups like this, especially lately. He's thrown some unnecessary throws and some interceptions that you kind of scratch your head on at times. However, I keep coming back to the fact that he consistently delivers in the clutch, in the big situations. When the moments are brightest, Mendoza is there. He's ready to go, and we're going to find our franchise quarterback here with the selection. Caleb Lomu, let's protect your franchise quarterback now, right? We need to be able to find that guy. Lomu, I believe in Lomu. I think he's a really good left tackle. Still a little polishing needs to be done. I do think, though, he will be a franchise left tackle. You got Chris Brazzell from Tennessee, whether it's an Omar Cooper, which would be an interesting one. I thought about him. I'm like, okay, let's not go 3 and let's spread the love on Hoosiers players. There's a bias. Obviously, I'm a Hoosier grad, so there's that. Anyway, we did select D'Angelo Pons as well, who's a great cornerback and somebody that I think moves into the slot to the next level full-time for this football team with Tyson Campbell, Denzel Ward on the outside. You put Pons in there at slot corner. You build up that secondary some more. You got Chris Brazzell in here as a wide receiver. Just select the best wide receiver with good hands. That's one reason maybe I didn't go with Cooper, because he does have some drops. So that's why we'll go with Brazzell here. A little more security there with his ability. On to the Saints here. With their 3rd selection, I'm going Arvell Reese. I list him as an edge. You got it. Whether he plays linebacker or edge, this is going to come down to where this team needs. I feel like he can be an edge full-time, though, if he wanted to be. He's that strong, and he's just so impactful as a playmaker on a defense. And for this New Orleans Saints team, I'm just going BPA. And if BPA is Arvell Reese, that's what I'm doing. I'm not worried if he even just an off-the-ball linebacker. He's just that good of a football player, and the difference he makes week in, week out, and that Ohio State defensive line. And then we go on to the defense in general. Denzel Boston. I want to get an X receiver to go along with Chris Olave, so you get that 1-2 punch in here as that dynamic duo for Tyler Shuck. And then we go Bo Stevens from Iowa, the left guard who's been so good at Iowa. That offensive line was destroying Oregon, and that's the many things. They won that battle, especially on the interior. They were getting movement, and they did a great job for the most part protecting. It just comes down to this team and trying to continue to develop offensive linemen, which has been a problem for them. And especially on the interior, I think Cesar Ruiz, you could move on from him. You got unfortunately, injuries too have been struck this team so badly. They're starting a new offensive lineman every single week, it seems like. Of course, Eric McCoy's at this point, his injury history is really, really extensive as well. So we might need to think about a center too. So I'm just really trying to invest in the trenches as much as possible, getting some more playmakers on offense and defense. Raiders here, and first up, we need some help. Get the replacements in here. Walk-ons, let's bring them on. We need some myriad. We're going to start off with Ruben Bain Jr. from Miami, going to be a hurricane up on that defensive line with Mad Max Crosby. We get Emmanuel Pregnon. I'm pregnant, as Arnold Schwarzenegger would say, right? Onto the offensive line. So your two guards going forward would be Caleb Rogers, Emmanuel Pregnon, and you move JPJ into center. And that would be the grouping there on the interior. And then you got Ethan Callie McManus from Rutgers, the quarterback. I want to throw his name out there. He has got some incredible, incredible throws on film. Sometimes the decision-making isn't always what you want. That's why he's going to be a round 3, round 4 type of quarterback. Maybe he goes a little, I don't know. We'll see where he ends up going. But I like him. I really do. Every time I watch Rutgers and I've been watching his tape, I'm very impressed. He's extremely accurate. And he's got a really nice deep ball. He hits some crazy corner routes and stuff like that. He seems like he can read the field at a high level. I think Callie McManus is somebody to watch out for and a great developmental cornerback behind Geno Smith for a season. And you just kind of go from there. So that's what I'm doing. He's not the most athletic guy or anything like that. He certainly has all the potential to be a franchise quarterback with the right development. And we're going to take a chance on somebody here. And if it doesn't work out, well, you set yourself up with more of a talented roster at this point, going into 2027 with plenty of, hopefully enough, draft capital and they do cap space this offseason into next too. So it's going to be able to set you up well into your positioning. Speaking of another team that is a little bit of a Madden rebuild scenario right now, it's the New York Football Jets, where we're going to start off a shocker, Mekhi Lemon. I thought about quarterback here, but I said, you know what? I'm a Jets fan. There's a guy I love a big time. It's Brendan Sorsby. I get it. He didn't have a very good game versus Utah. It's not like he was making bad decisions. His problem really has come down to sometimes the processor. I don't know if he senses pressure too easily and then he'll just throw up a deep ball or something like that. He's going to have to work on maybe getting to his backside reads a little bit quicker at times. He took a little bit of a step back in this past game versus Utah with that. And his accuracy, too, took a big step back. You did have that one crazy slot fade throw for a touchdown. It was so good. And the athleticism with Scoresby is there. Sorsby, I love him so much. I really do. He's the ultimate developmental upside quarterback where you believe in your coaching staff and you can get some of those deficiencies out of Sorsby. He could be a top 5 quarterback. I really think so. We'll see. Okay, the Jets haven't been able to develop quarterbacks, so it's probably not the greatest landing spot here. It is what it is. Hey, Aaron Glenn's the one in charge now, so we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going with Caden McDonald. E-I-E-I-O, from the Ohio State University onto the interior defensive line to be another stud muffin up onto that defensive interior. You got Juwan Briggs, Harrison Phillips, been really solid and everything like that, but we could definitely use another playmaker after letting go of Quinn Williams. You got Dylan Thieneman, Oregon, safety. Let's pair him up with more up there. We want more safety help, right? So now you got yourself Malachi and Dylan Thieneman up in that secondary as your 1-2 punch. Those would be the dream secondary for me with some speed combined with some playmaking ability down in the box. I really think that those two would complement each other very, very well. Trying to fill out what I can for New York Football Giants, though, now. And we're going with Francis Mauigoa, CC, over there at Miami, the Hurricane. Whether he plays right guard, right tackle, it's going to come down to Jermaine Illuminor, whether they re-sign him or not. Either which way, they need help over there on that right side. And even Illuminor had a rough week versus the Bears with blitz pickups and stuff like that. So we'll see. But Mauigoa, it's just going to be an improvement on their offensive line over there and protecting Dart and getting the run game going even more, right? But without Scatterboo, they look lost. They need toughness. So maybe opening up some more lanes would be nice with Mauigoa. Then we got Jacob Rodriguez, Texas Tech. Maybe Heisman front runner. I don't know. We'll see, right? Everybody's hyping him up right now. He's a good football player. He really is. Does he have the elite traits and tools? Probably not, but he's an instinctual son of a gun, and he makes plays around the line of scrimmage, shooting gaps consistently. He has got the instincts you look for, and I think that he can be that guy next to Bobby Okereke or Mike McFadden. They just need to improve, especially off the edges with their linebacking core, have some more help there, and Rodriguez can do that. On to the Cardinals. I'm going quarterback here. I'm going Ty Simpson, the quarterback from Alabama. they got to start thinking about quarterback of the future. It looks like Kyler Murray could be shipped off this offseason. So we replace him with Ty Simpson, who it definitely needs to work on the deep ball accuracy. That's something that's definitely taking a step back over the past couple of weeks. So we'll see with Simpson. It's still ongoing, and he's going to have a chance to prove himself into the playoffs more than likely. Simpson going to be the pick, though, for their long-term quarterback. Austin Sherville from the Ohio State University. They've had some luck with offensive tackles from Ohio State University, so now we go back and we get another one. Whether he plays guard or tackle, it's going to be an interesting. I think he's got the length. Does he have the speed to play tackle consistently? Maybe not, but at right tackle, it might be able to work out. Give him a shot over there. Maybe if it doesn't work, then move him inside the guard. I think he's a really solid offensive lineman for the Buckeyes. And improving the offensive line for the Cardinals, I think, is a must. And they're blitzing them like crazy, too, so there's that, which doesn't help. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and improve with Sherfield. And then we got Zachariah Branch, going to be a speed monster in this offense, which is something that they're lacking a little bit. Love Harrison. When you actually throw the ball to him, good things happen. And pairing him up with a speed merchant, somebody that can take the top off defenses, allow Marvin Harrison to open up a little bit more. That would make more sense to me. Branch can also be a yak target. Get the ball in the hands at screens. That's really what they do at Georgia a lot with Zachariah. On to the Bengals here, where we're going Caleb Downs, a safety-proof magnet that just you stick into that secondary with Jordan Battle. You feel a little bit better about that now with Downs coming in a little more of a sure tackler and also a better cover man to bring into that secondary into the fold. Maybe going free agency at the cornerback room to pair along with DJ Turner, Dax Hill in the slot possibly, and that's your cornerback duo. We get Trevor Gooseby to hopefully be the future left tackle here. He needs to work on his technique, but he definitely has all the traits you look for. You got Gabe Akers from Illinois, edge rusher. Get some more depth in this room. That's definitely a big need here for this team. Osai and Hendrickson both being free agents. They need some help. Sample's also a free agent too, so their edge room could look a little different here, and they're going to need Miles Murphy and Shamar Stewart to step up big time. On to the Commanders. I'm going to go and grab Carnell Tate, wide receiver from the Buckeyes from the Ohio State University, to improve this wide receiving room, which is a big area for this team to do this offseason. And I think that Carnell Tate is exactly what they need. Another guy that can create plays down the field. He's got strong hands, and he is a better route runner than you'd think for his size. Deceptive speed as well. Really, really nice football player that is also a good run blocker out there for the Buckeyes too. And a lot of the Buckeyes receivers, they know how to block. They teach him up how to block really well, so that'll help out their run game too as well. A.J. Halsey from LSU, going to be a guy that comes in there and helps that secondary room for the future, especially because Quan Martin's had his struggles. He can't really tackle that well. And in general, I think they need another playmaker in that back end. Whether or not Will Harris is back, that's going to be something to watch out for. They need to improve the secondary, so I'm thinking let's go ahead and invest in that here with a good, solid safety class on day number 2. On to the Carolina Panthers. I'm pounding the table. I'm going quarterback here, Dante Moore. Unfortunately, Bryce Young has just not worked out. The consistency is not there. This team needs a guy that can be more of a consistent play caller, and it sucks. I love Bryce Young, I really do. I just don't know if he's the answer, at least at this moment. Maybe at some point he can get there. You never know. It's just for right now, Carolina, this football team could be way better than what they are. I think they've got the talent. It just comes down to they're not getting the efficiency out of the quarterback position to really get the job done. I mean, McMillan was injured for a good chunk of this week. You could tell he looked like he was nursing a hamstring problem there. I want to invest here with Dante Moore from Oregon, get their signal caller of the future here. Keith Abney from Arizona State going to help out that cornerback room. Mike Jackson is a guy that you could think about for the future. Yes, he's under contract. Would that stop me from drafting another cornerback? No. And even J.C. Horn, I mean, he got beat this past week too. So it's going to be something that they can invest in a little bit more into their secondary. You got Shaw Smith-Wade in the slot, who's actually been decent. He was probably the best corner this past week. They could still look at a little bit more help in that secondary, so that's what I'm going to do. He'll at least be a good fourth corner early on. Deontay Lawson, I like that combination there, a 1-2 punch that he could bring. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here with Trayvon Wallace, who Wallace has been fantastic this season. I'm not looking to replace Wallace, but Rosenboom's a free agent. He wouldn't be super expensive to bring back. But if they don't, then Lawson, I think, would make a lot of sense as that 1-2 combination with him and Wallace. On to the Minnesota Vikings here. With their first pick, with their first 2 picks, I'm going back-to-back secondary players. Javon McCoy, Kamari Ramsey. going to be two big dynamic duos for their long haul future, with McCoy being more of that true outside corner. You can put Murphy in the slot, really where I think he's at his best. And then you got Rodgers in there. So Rodgers, McCoy, and Murphy. That would be a dynamic. I mean, I get it. Martellus has kind of played that big nickel slot role for them a lot. Maybe Martellus can move back over to safety a little more consistently, since he can't really cover guys. Let's just be real. So maybe you put him in more like a hybrid linebacker pseudo role there with Wilson. That's kind of what I'm at right now. So we'll see. But that's kind of what I like to improve the secondary and their coverage unit a little bit more. Hollywood Smothers, a guy I continue to mock to them, but I love it because of what he brings with his speed and receiving ability. You pair him up with Jordan Mason, it gives him a lot more explosiveness in this offense. And then Drew Bobo from Georgia, the center. Georgia at it again, with these one-year starting centers. He's another guy in the Georgia pipeline. He can end up being that long-term replacement in here for Kelly, which Ryan Kelly's dealt with concussions and stuff, and it's starting to get real serious. So you have to start thinking about the investment there. So Drew Bobo going to be the pick here for their center of the future. Brendel's been playing right now. On to the Falcons. I'm going with Omar Cooper Jr. Let's go. Judas looking down as he went. That was what made it so funny, too. Unbelievable catch. He does have some drops on his film. However, he's just such a dynamic playmaker and exactly what this team needs. He's already got the colors, too. But this team needs somebody where Michael Penix get the ball in his hands and can take it 5, 10 plus yards. They don't really have that guy. Pitts is not really a yak merchant. London's not a yak merchant. Mooney at this point has not been his greatest this season. He struggled again this week with drops. It's funny. The Atlanta Falcons, it's like when Penix does hit some receivers on the money, they don't catch it. And then, it's like, but then he'll miss a couple of wide open throws and you're like, oh my gosh, it's just not. That's like what I felt with the Colts watching this week. I'm like, geez Louise. When he hits them, they drop it. But when he doesn't hit them, they're wide open. And it's like, oh, Michael Penix, you had him. So it was a frustrating week for the Falcons in watching that game. Anyway, I'm going with Julian Neal here from the Arkansas cornerback room to be their long-term outside corner. Mike Hughes been a little banged up too. So got to invest in that. He is still under contract. I want to at least find some depth here in the third round and looking into especially 2027 and stuff. That would make a lot of sense to invest in cornerback here. You find yourself an answer for that 1-2 punch with Terrell. And that would be a physical duo too, especially, coming downhill and tackling and stuff like that. It'd be a tough duo to deal with Neal and Terrell on the outside. I'll say that. That would be a dirty, dirty bird for sure. On to the Fins. Fins up here. We're starting off with Spencer Fanu. I'm just investing in the offensive line. Whether Fanu plays a guard or tackle for this team, I really don't care. They need to invest in the offensive line some more. They have all 5 starters under contract. I get that. Jackson, I don't know. I'm just saying right now, with the injury history and stuff, let's invest in this offensive line because do not expect their starting 5 to play the entire season. You just can't. So Fanu could be the long-term right tackle and can be an early-on swing player for wherever you need him to fill in for. That's kind of what I'm looking at. It's just too big of a need for too long. And then we got Jeremy Bernard from Alabama going to invest in this wide receiving room for Tua, get him another weapon with a good complement skill set-wise of Jalen Waddle. And then we got Will Lee, cornerback from Texas A&M. Still want to invest on the outside. Rasul Douglas being a free agent, it makes sense to get somebody on the outside. And Will Lee definitely has the coverage chops to do that. Malachi Lawrence from UCF, a guy to watch out for, man. He's got some pass rush ability, I'll say that. So at least if nothing else, we're getting some depth, but maybe you're getting a little bit of a third-round steal at this point on somebody who can get after the passer. And bring him in after losing out on Jalen Phillips, who had the game-winning play, too, for the Eagles, of course. It is what it is. He had a couple of nice plays in that one. More in the run game-wise, I would say. Anyway, Malachi Lawrence will give him some more pass rush with Chop and Bradley Chubb. Chubb had a good week, too. You got Earl Little Jr. from Florida State, who is going to be a safety developmental guy to go along with Minka Fitzpatrick, especially with the injuries that they've had in the secondary. Or, when you look at it as a whole, even though Ifanwe had a good week, he's been injured throughout his career. So I'm going to continue to look at he's a free agent, too, so I'm not going to bank on that. Earl Little Jr. can hopefully be a long-term answer. And, hey, Minka Fitzpatrick may not be long-term. Who knows? I just think about investing some more in the secondary. So we kind of double-dipped on that. Next up, it's time to prowl. We're on the prowl. We got Isaiah World, left tackle to the future. He needs time to develop. Yes, you have Walker still under contract, so he can start day one. But going into maybe 2027, Isaiah World, I think could have like a Chris Ball type of ascension. He reminds me a little bit of that type of player. He's very raw with his hands, needs to get strong on that outside shoulder. And he's the ultimate developmental left tackle for this team, where it's a problem for them. I mean, Hunter basically won that game. He beat up on Walker. Walker wasn't even touching him at times. So investing in a left tackle, I think, is critical. The rest of the draft, I went defense. I thought about adding a running back in here. It's going to come down to what they do with Travis Etienne. Even as such, they could use maybe another player, but I still think the Tootin could be a solid backup for them, and he's been an impact already. But Graves, Young, Clark, all our picks here. Graves, not the greatest week versus that Oregon offensive interior. Oregon, they did a good job. Like both offensive lines, Iowa and Oregon's offensive lines beat their defensive lines respectively. But Graves, still a talented guy that can be a pass rusher, like an Eric Armstead understudy type of dude that can get after the quarterback. And that's what I'm looking for here. Young, another dude, jacked up hammer that you bring into this room because they need something, right? Walker's been their best pass rusher, in my opinion. He's been banged up this season. Josh Hines-Allen's got to step up a little bit more consistently. Like I'm not seeing him put his presence that I'm used to seeing with Josh Hines-Allen week in, week out. So maybe we bring in a little more depth in here with Zion Young to get some help. And then Bud Clark at safety can help out this room. It's also dealt with a little bit of injuries in that back end. So I want to improve their secondary a little bit. Eric Murray is getting a little bit too, even though he's been really their best secondary player, is somebody they could pair him up with Bud Clark. So trying to improve that. Wingard has been, okay. He's been okay. Dewey, of course. We'll see how it goes, on to the Dallas Cowboys, and we're going with David Bailey, Texas Tech extraordinaire, pass rushing phenom that adds some more electricity, a little bit more juice, right? And you pair him up with Ezeraku. That's a lot of juice off the edge and a lot of pass rush for Jerry. You improved your interior a lot too, so you can help stop the run. Maybe Wilson as a linebacker ends up being solid for them and has a little bit of a resurgence. Logan, who's a good linebacker, he's just struggled over the past season or so. He's also dealt with some injuries. Jeremiah Love, Air Love at 23, too good of a value not to pass up on. If Javonte Williams gets paid in the offseason, you put in Love here as a replacement, and that'd be pretty insane, and certainly could find that dominant Cowboys runner that this team has generally done very well with over the years. Then we go on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and no quarterback is the first thing you're going to see here. And you're like, whoa, what is going on here? I got to look at this. And, well, Chris Bell is going to be a selection. They need wide receivers. They need wide receivers so bad. I don't care what quarterback is playing. Clearly, they need help there. Quarterback is a problem for this football team, and maybe they address it with the Kyler Murray trade. I think that's very possible. I'm not going to speculate too much on that, right? Maybe I'll speculate next week, but it's for right now, maybe they get a guy like Kyler Murray, or they trade for maybe Bryce Young, right? There's options out there for what this Pittsburgh Steelers team could do. There's going to be a couple of quarterbacks on the market after this offseason. And maybe Pittsburgh says themselves, look, we don't feel confident with where we're at in the draft to be able to select a quarterback. So we're going to go out and trade for one of those guys, and then we'll just draft best players available and improve our roster even more. Guys like Chris Bell going to be that 1-2 punch with DK. Because even DK at this point, I don't know if DK is a true number one wide receiver. So Chris Bell adds a lot more explosiveness into this offense. Chris Bell going to be a guy in the secondary to improve. And Ramsey's kind of been playing like a free safety role for them. Injuries, the Joker, Deshaun Elliott's been banged up. So they've kind of had to move around Ramsey, and we'll see if they want to keep Ramsey over at safety going forward. I imagine it's just more for injury's sake and everything like that. But Johnson could be a long-term outside cornerback, and Ramsey can stay in the slot, be a hybrid role. So Johnson, Porter, your two outside cornerbacks of the future. And they got Jaden Roberts. He has got elite traits as an offensive lineman. Maybe not the foot speed or anything, but he's so powerful. He's probably the strongest offensive lineman pound for pound in this draft. He is a ridiculous grown man strength out there that can barrel dudes. So you talk about a run blocker, it's going to help open up some lanes. He's got that. It's going to continue to improve his technique and pass pro, not get over his toes so often, and not be injured all the time, right? That's a little bit of a red flag, of course. Maybe that's why he'll end up going lower in the draft. We got John Hunter Daly from Utah. More speed off the edge, right? More pass rush juice. And bring in here with Herbig, Highsmith, and of course TJ. So why not? Improve the depth some more off the edge. You got Tao Johnson from Utah, who's another safety prospect to watch out for with some coverage instincts in that Utah secondary. They always seem to produce guys with some solid instincts there. It's just a common trait. It seems like at Utah, they know how to teach right, and he can be another one of those pipelines that can help out the secondary. So I just wanted to double dip in the secondary and really improve that. We try to be well-rounded with this as much as possible. Overall, just trying to see what we can do to improve this roster while considering the quarterback options may be a little tricky for the Steel City. Maybe they make a trade for a Bryce Young or a Kyler Murray, as I said before. On the Houston Hunters, as I'm calling them, right? Dude, Daniil Hunter. Mr. Anderson, of course, an impact on that other side, too. But we got in Sonny Styles to be another impact on this defense. Sonny Styles is a beast. Had another monster week versus Purdue. He's just a do-it-all linebacker. He's got that athleticism profile, the size to make plays in coverage. He can make plays as a blitzer. He's just so dynamic across the football field and going to be that 1-2 punch with Azeez Al-Shaair. What a combination that would be. Oh, my goodness. And Toa Toa is not really your coverage guy or anything like that. I think he got called for a PI, too, this week. Anyway, improving the linebacking room a little bit more. It's not their biggest need or anything like that, but I just think he's BPA at this point and a first-round player. On to Emmanuel McNeil Warren from Toledo. Sorry, I forgot to put the school there. But the Rocket. And going to be a Rocket to pair along with Bullock. Oh, what a combination that is. Bullock as your free roaming safety. Emmanuel McNeil Warren as your kind of strong safety guy that can do a hybrid role for this team. That's a smoking duo. And then you got Apani Laulu, had a great week versus Iowa in that front. We were talking about that with Aaron Graves. Laulu, really, really strong center and somebody that I think is a solid athlete as well. Whether he plays guard or center for this team, just trying to improve their interior offensive lineman, get a bona fide starter here with Apani Laulu, get somebody in free agency as well, and you build out that offensive line. Big Citrus going to be some youth up for that interior. They've played well and everything like that, but they do need to think about that. Rankin, Settle, getting a little bit older now, so trying to think about that with a guy like Big Citrus, Dominique Orange from Iowa State. On to the Niners. Peter Woods going to be the selection here, just too good of a value at this point. Yeah, he's not had the season, but he's still a really talented player. The Niners have invested. CJ West, I saw him making some plays this week. Collie Davis has been solid. Haven't seen a whole ton of Alfred Collins, but he's more of a nose stuffer and stuff like that. But Peter Woods would kind of be the icing on that cake. And I just went with the best defensive lineman available. Is kind of my philosophy at this approach. So kind of going with that. We got Max Ianker over at Arizona State. Ianker is a talented left tackle with all the physical traits you look for. And he's really come a long way. He really has. And he could be that long-term left tackle for this team behind Trent Williams for a season as the swing man. And then like I said, your future left tackle. We got Jacoby Lane. He opens his own lanes, even though he's not the fastest guy. He's just so strong. He really is. He can be the Jawan Jennings replacement in this offense. Close to home, too. So a little bit of that. But Jacoby going to be the Anobi into this offense and needs some depth, if nothing else, in this wide receiving room. On to the Bears. Caleb Banks. Let's add another interior monster up there, right? It's something that this team could use. They're lacking a little bit of juice on that defensive line. So Dexter's been good and everything like that. And he had another solid week. But yeah, and Banks with Dexter. Grady Jarrett's getting a little bit older now. So booming. Yeah, I'm rocking with that one all day. Billings is a free agent too this offseason. I mean, he's a good player. He's just been kind of banged up and whatnot. He's dealt with some injuries. So we'll see. But Banks certainly also a guy you have to watch out for with injuries. I still think it's a credible value for how good of a football. But you see, like, I have no idea where Banks is going to go in the draft. I heard McShay come out here and say he's going top 20. So I moved him back up because, like, talent-wise, he's one of my top 10 players in this draft. Purely off of talent, I think Banks is a stud. It just comes down to the medicals. Jake Galladay from Cincinnati, the Bearcat, going to be a linebacker combination in here with Edmonds. Edwards has struggled in coverage this year, and I think that they could at least think about that linebacker position. So a Gold Day makes a lot of sense here from Cincinnati. On to Genesis Smith, Arizona safety. Going to be a good complementary skill set in here to help out their secondary room. Now, here's one thing I will say. It depends. If they let go of Brisker, okay, then, Genesis Smith will make sense. Maybe if they let go of Kevin Byard, then you might want to look at for more of like a Jelani McDonald would make a lot of sense here at this point. So it just kind of depends on what they decide to do. Brisker's been good, actually. Brisker had another good game this week, too. He missed one play in the secondary that he got beat on in general this past week versus the Giants. But overall, he's been pretty dang solid this season. Not great, but been decent and stuff. I think they can improve their secondary. They've had some rough games too. Like the Bengals comes to mind where it was a rough game. So just trying to improve the secondary a little bit some more here, and adding a guy like Genesis Smith could at least bolster up the depth. Well, let's go on to the Broncos here, and with their first pick, I'm going with Vega Ione, the Penn State offensive lineman left guard, who's going to be a plug-and-play starter for them. Because the way I see this is they could move on from Ben Powers this offseason, who's been injured right now. And I feel like they've got to get a little younger, got to get a little cheaper on their interior. Now, Ione could also play center for them, I feel like. I don't see why he couldn't play center. Or maybe you can move some guys around, right? I mean, you can move Myers back in over there. So I just feel like that with where they're at right now, trying to invest in the interior a little bit more, or the offensive line in general, getting younger. I say this a lot, but I think it is something they need to think about, because if not, in maybe a year or two, they're going to start saying, yeah, we've got a great offensive line right now, but, maybe in a couple of years, we're like, oh, crap, all our guys are above 30 years old, and yeah, we're in trouble here. I mean, we start getting more injuries and stuff like that. So it's time to invest a little bit more in the trenches, and that's what I'm going to do with the big, strong monster with Ione. Amari Washington from Oregon had a rough week. That's a defensive line over at Oregon in general had a rough week. That interior at Iowa, they did a great job. And that the stock is up on Bo Stevens, Logan Jones, and Cade Pieper for sure. Amari Washington, still at this point, this value, he's the ultimate developmental traits guy, where John Franklin Myers, as dominant as he has been this season, Zach Allen, it's the best duo in NFL right now, in my opinion. I think it's the best interior defensive line. And then Jones is like that nose defender. And Roach, too, is a solid player on that interior defensive line. Like, they're studded up on that front. But I want to invest in it because it is getting a little bit older now, and contracts coming up, stuff like that. So Washington can be a great understudy, developmental guy to build that defensive line and keep it running. Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, going to be a nice guy to develop behind Evan Ingram for his season and give Peyton that versatile X-dynamic tight end sort of guy, right? That move chess piece. And I think Stowers is that guy. You can move him across, H-back, hybrid, roll, slot, merchant, everything. Like, he's got that yak ability too, the speed, athleticism profile. Really interesting selection for Sean Payton in this offense is the view on it. On to the Bacon Bucks, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a rough one, and injuries are just continue to catch up on them. And Drake May had a great week. Travion Henderson stopping the run right at the outside plays. Get a guy like C.J. Allen. He can do that, all right? So C.J. Allen, help out this linebacker core. I know it's a pick I always do. It just makes a lot of sense in my opinion. Caleb Tiernan. Here's my thing. Obviously, tackle's not a need. You just signed Godick, and you got Tristan Wirfs. But Tiernan gives them depth, and this is the way I look at it. They need a swing offensive lineman really bad, whether it's for Ben Bredesen, who's been injured, or Godick. Like, they need guys on this offense line for depth purposes. So Tiernan, whether you could move inside to guard at the next level because of the lack of length, or be a swing tackle for them, I really don't care. They just need the sixth offensive lineman really, really bad. It's been a rough season for the Buccaneers offensive line. And then we got Derek Moore, edge rusher from Michigan. So continue to bolster up the pass rush here. And Moore's been really solid for Michigan. I think he's got the traits you look for as well. I don't know if he's going to be a high level, run defender or anything like that, but he definitely has some pass rush chops to his game, and going to be another good rotational guy there with Yaya Diaby had a good week. On to the Bolts here. I'm going with Parker Brailsford, center from Alabama. I'm a big fan. Not everybody's going to agree with this one. You look at his size, you say, oh boy, that's an outlier. Look, you look at some of the best centers in the league, and it's not against it. Aaron Brewer's, probably around his size, and he's a great center. I think Brailsford's stronger than Brewer, especially coming out. Brailsford is extremely strong. I don't see him ever hold up having problems. I've saw him go up against reps Darrell Jackson one-on-one, no issues. So I don't think Brailsford's power issue is a problem, and I think he's a dominant center that just doesn't lose a whole ton of reps. And then we got Romello Height, edge rusher, to give him some more talent there with Adafe Owe and Tui Tuipulotu, who both had nice weeks, by the way. But Height gives him that third package edge rusher with Khalil Mack going into a contract year, and also Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree had a good week, too. I mean, Khalil Mack had that, it was a safety, right? He had a safety, and just in general, good week for Khalil Mack. This edge rushing duo, it's been way better. So I just want to continue to invest in it. And they got Mateen Agoroba from Wake Forest. Getting a pass rusher on their interior is the one thing I'd look at. You got your run defenders, Tyler Tart and Jamari Caldwell, both good football players. Caldwell was also huge in a couple of plays for them this past week versus Pittsburgh. I just feel like they could use another pass rusher onto that interior, especially when they play three down linemen quite a bit. On to the Packs. And we're going with a team that, look, the way I see this is let's go and build their identity some more, which is running the football. I will say, Jordan Love has taken a step back with his processor. There's been multiple times, especially in this Eagles game, where there's wide open guys down the field and he's missing them. So, we'll see. I mean, look, I'm not saying Jordan Love's you got to replace or nothing like that. I think he's still very, very good. He's just having a little bit of a down year, in my opinion. They're running the ball a lot, too. I think that they're, kind of putting in some of those things, too. But Logan Jones could be their future center for this football team and a great, great run blocker. So LaFleur gets himself that long-term center. This is something Gutekunst just notorious for doing, is investing in offensive line over and over and over again, even if you kind of hit or miss. Maybe Jordan Morgan was a bit of a miss. So we continue to improve this offensive line. Jenkins is still under contract, I believe, for one more season, but that's not going to stop me here from continuing to invest in the offensive line and kind of keeping their engine going. The lack of explosive plays are really the Packers' problem. So I'm thinking to myself, what could improve that the most? First off, Jordan Love taking another step, and then maybe improving the run game a little bit more by giving more lanes open up and stuff like that. And Logan Jones has been excellent at that. Lee Hunter from Texas Tech, interior defense line, that's underrated player in college football. He's been a little banged up this season, back and made his presence known. He's just so dominant up there as a nose tackle, somebody that can also rush the passer with a bull rush. He's a kind of a freakish athlete for his size, in my opinion, and certainly going to bolster up that pass rush with Devontae Wyatt even more as a 1-2 punch. Colby Wooden, that'd be your dynamic duo of three right there, who both had solid weeks. Wyatt was really good. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it here, is just adding another star up into that defensive line. On the Chiefs, I'm going with Keldrick Folk, edge rusher from Alabama. That's a bad guy. I think at this point, too, it makes a lot of sense with Folk's talent. And I think that he can be a guy that early on can be a great run defender, edge setter, exactly what this team wants. And then if you can continue to develop those tools as a pass rusher, you get yourself that 1-2 punch with the big bull, George Karlaftis. Jonah Coleman, running back. I know I do this one over and over again. I did think about changing this one up, maybe with like an Emmett Johnson from Nebraska, who's been really good. You got Wayman Jordan out there from USC. Some, interesting running backs, Hollywood Smothers, but maybe he's a little bit like what they have in Brashad Smith. So I wanted a complementary skill set with Jonah Coleman, who I think is a great complement with a guy like Brashad Smith. And then finally, Michael Trigg. This is too much of a fun one, right? Trigg is a dominant catch point merchant, and I think could be a great 1-2 punch there with Noah Gray. With Travis Kelce getting older, maybe he does end up retiring after the season. Michael Trigg just adds another beast of a weapon in there for Mahomes. On to the Detroit Lions and the Roar, where we're going to go and take Avion Terrell here with their first pick. First off, they need some depth at the cornerback room, but I also think he'd be a starter right away. He's been really good this season. Even though Clemson defense has struggled, I think Terrell's been very solid in that back end. So you pair him up with Terrion Arnold and DJ Reed. You build out that dynamic room. Nice solid slot corner there with Terrell, who can play in the slot or play on the outside. Like, I think they could work this out. Arnold could play in the slot if they want him to. So you figure on, I think that would be a good solid trio of three corners. I'm not really banking on Enos at this point, unfortunately, with the injury history. Then we got Jake Slaughter from Florida. Really solid center prospect. I think he's got all the tools you look for to be a great center, the leadership ability, all those things. He's an experienced guy, and I think he could be a day one starter for this team for Graham Glasgow to replace him to be their long-term center. And they could still bring Glasgow back and maybe put him as more of your swing guard, right? Which is something they could use. Ashika had to play over at left guard this past week, and improving the depth would never hurt. On to the Colts. I'm going with Indiana Hoosier, Elijah Surratt here. Let's go. I figured since A.D. Mitchell's gone, and maybe after this season, because I'm just saying right now, Alec Pierce is having a monster year. He might get paid more than what the Colts can pay after inheriting Sauce Gardner's contract and that option bonus that comes after this season. It might make it a little tricky for the Colts to pay him, and that's why I'm going to go get Elijah Surratt here, who can be some more help in this wide receiving duo, even though he's kind of more like a Michael Pittman type. So it is what it is. I just wanted to get Elijah Surratt because the Waffle House, why not? Keep him here in Indiana. It'd be cool. And then we got Gary Brackett 2.0. Am I hearing whispers of that? That'd be pretty insane. Torian York, though, literally, if you're going to compare him to any sort of, like, if you're going to make a comparison on a guy his size that's worked out in the NFL, it would be Gary Brackett. And that's your hope. I'm not saying going to be Gary Brackett because Gary Brackett was probably one of the most dominant Indiana linebackers of all time. It just comes down to, I think York is a super talented guy, and somebody pair along in there with Jair Franklin. Oh, be kind of a fun one. So I went with it a little bit for that too. The Philadelphia Eagles here with their pick. I'm going Casey Concepcion. He's got the thumbs up. I'm ready to go. And I just felt like he was kind of the best player available at this point. Why not add another playmaker in here? And A.J. Brown's getting a little bit older now. So I mean, he's still a great wide receiver and everything like that. Hurts just wasn't really getting him the ball last night. And it's credit to the Packers. They did a good job bracking and everything like that. But Concepcion as another playmaker with Devontae Smith, who had a good night. Had that big touchdown catch, of course, at the end that really sealed the game. But Concepcion just adds another dynamic threat, can be a Jahan Dotson replacement for them and fits that role really, really well. And yeah, that's kind of what it came down to. And now, I will say, after watching last night's game and seeing Jalen Phillips out there make big-time plays, and even Jalix Hunt had a resurgence and a really good game. I mean, Phillips had the game winner, really. So when it comes down to it, this is probably a pick that if I had to mock myself, I maybe would say go offensive line or go tight end here, possibly. I get it. And, you know, it's kind of what it is. I like Saka a lot. That's nothing against Anton Saka. I think he's a really good football player and it has a ton of upside. It just comes down to maybe they've got some other bigger areas that they need to look at besides edge at this point, because you got Nolan Smith, you got Jalen Phillips, who I suspect they'll give a contract to, and you got Aziz, who's going to be a free agent. I don't think they'll give him a contract if they give Phillips, but Jalix Hunt. So we'll see. Okay, that's just kind of where I'm at right now, and it still could be something Howie Roseman goes after. Zachy Wheatley, though, this I feel a little more confident because he can plug right in there for Reed Blankenship as your long-term safety duo with Andrew Makuba. That's something I think would be a good complementary skill set. And then Jermaine Matthews, another area that they need to improve as well. That could, maybe the second round pick could be corner instead. But you add in Jermaine Matthews here, who has outside, inside versatility. You put him on the outside with Mitchell, who had a great game, and then Cooper DeJean in the slot. That would be your duo. They got Michael Carter right now. They had to pick up and trade for. They needed some help, so it is what it is. They need some more cornerback help into this long haul. I think Matthews really good cornerback. For the New England Patriots, and I'm going with Cashius Howell, who's another big edge rusher who is just going to bring some immense talent. If they re-sign Kayvon Chason, that's fine. Bringing Cashius Howell to be another edge rusher into the room. Plus, he plays tough against the run despite his size. You got Caden Green from Missouri. He plays left tackle right now, but I think he moves inside the guard. Again, that's where he was playing at Missouri until this season, and they kind of had to force him over there. He's better at guard to me with lack of foot speed for tackle. But you put him in at left guard for this team. Jarrell Wilson at center. Michael Onwenu at right guard. Rocking and rolling. I mean, maybe a right tackle of the future could be something that they invest in, but Moses is still under contract. He had a couple like full start penalties, I think, this week. Nothing crazy. He's been solid this year. Their offensive line in general. Will Campbell probably had his worst week that I've seen in a minute from Campbell, but still been really good this year. And then we added Chandler Rivers here. This is something, if Marcus Jones does not get paid, this would be something I could see them doing. You maybe bring in a veteran, a one-year contract, and you draft a guy like Chandler Rivers, D'Angelo Pons, et cetera, somebody like that, Xavier Scott, that can be a slot cornerback to develop in there. Because, look, Gonzo's going to be coming up on a contract in a couple of seasons. They're going to have to pay him maybe an extension this offseason in the works. And then you're already paying Carlton Davis. Do you want to pay 3 corners big money? And Marcus Jones is a great corner, so he's going to get paid. And that's where it comes down to. So I figured let's go and get a little bit cheaper if we can, if we have to. On to the D-line of doom, the Seattle Seahawks. Bro, it is insane. Their defensive line is crazy. So why not beef it up some more? Mateo Uyunglele, edge rusher from Oregon. They do have some free agents. They got some older players, of course, so I figure why not? DeMarcus Lawrence has as many touchdowns as Justin Jefferson. Can you believe that? That's insane. Got to give credit to Tyrese Knight, though. He was insane this week. Credit to him coming off the bench, too. Like, getting benched and playing as well as he did. Not just as a blitzer. He played a good game in general. But Mateo Uyunglele, let's just add embarrassment of riches into this defensive line. And then we got Kay Pieper from Iowa, going to be their right guard of the future here. Plug-and-play guy, in my opinion, and a great fit, too, for this team in Kubiak's system. Emmett Johnson. Well, what if K9's not back? Well, you say, will we invest in it here? Good complementary skill set with Zach Charbonnet, and Charbonnet had a solid week, too. And, yeah, why not, right? So it's something to consider. I think there's still a good chance K9 is back, but if he isn't, something to watch out for, right? Invest in the running back, and Johnson's been great. On the Buffalo Bills, and we're going with the Proctor, Caden Proctor from Alabama. I list him as an interior offense lineman for this football team. Move him into left guard, be that replacement for David Edwards. If they're not able to pay him, heck, I mean, just figure it out, because they also have to look at Connor McGovern, who's a free agent. Now, if they look at Connor McGovern and then re-sign David Edwards, you're going to need a center for the long haul. However, you wonder, of course, because they've got, what's his name, Georgia center that they drafted. Maybe he ends up being the long-term guy. So that's why I'm holding out there on drafting a center. So that's why I went guard here. And Proctor kind of fits the mold of they like these big monster guards, offensive linemen in general, and he could do that for them. Got to work on his leverage, especially going to play guard. He's powerful, though. I'll say that. Anthony Hill from Texas, one that I think would be a great pick for them as that dude that can get to the edge, stop the run a little bit more consistently as well, and be that linebacker of the future that this team needs to go along with Terrell Bernard. Xavier Scott from Illinois. This is something where, at this point, as good of a football player as they have in Taron Johnson, Taron's been injured quite a bit. I want to invest in it. I think Xavier Scott at this point makes a lot of sense. And if nothing else, he could play safety up there with Cole Bishop, who's one of the best safeties in the league right now, it seems like. But yeah, Xavier Scott going to be a versatile defensive back that ends up giving them some depth at the slot corner position. On to the Rams, and we're going with Mansour Delane, the LSU cornerback. Too good of a value at 12. I felt like let's go ahead and improve this secondary. And you get that true outside cornerback guy and somebody that I feel, immense improvement to their secondary. And then you got Blake Miller, right tackle. Put him in there the way he's playing right now. He's got the size, the athleticism for sure. That can be your future right tackle, Rob Havenstein replacement. Little similarities, actually, in some ways. Skylar Bell from UConn. Oh my gosh, another underrated wide receiver out here. Such a good football player. He's a crafty route runner, strong hands. He plays way above his size, and exactly something that this team could be looking at this offseason. Another playmaker. Tutu Atwell is a free agent. Puka and Bell is your long-term 1-2 punch, right? Hey, I mean, Adam's still unbelievable, of course. It's just he's getting a little bit older now, so something to consider. That'd be your third wide receiver. This team's playing like 22%. I mean, they're playing heavy personnel. They're playing 3 tight ends out here. They got some good tight ends, so I don't blame them. Josh Hoover going to be your developmental quarterback here in the 3rd round. A little understudy there for Matthew Stafford for a season, and we can see if he ends up being a guy or not. And if not, you know what? You set yourself up for 2020, even though you may not be drafting super high, true. But anyway, I get a draft of developmental quarterback here. On to the final team of the draft. I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens, the Super Bowl champion in this one. I know, I changed it up, right? Woo! You're like, wow, that came from nowhere. Azarath Mitrione Zinto style. And the Ravens looking really good right now. That team is coming together. Their defense looks way, way better. Their offense, of course, Lamar Jackson. Now that he's back, he's playing great. This team has really all the tools, and it's a sneaky team. And I'm not really concerned because they have to play all of their teams at the back end of the season anyway. So if there's a time for Lamar to get injured, it was at the beginning of the season. If anything, it's a good thing now because I think Lamar is a little more fresh ability going in later in the season, and this team can get going more as the season goes along. Like, I want to see them. I don't even think they've hit their best football yet. That's the thing. They have not hit their best football, and I think they could hit their best football when playoff comes around. This might be my favorite team to win the Super Bowl right now. I'm just saying. Anyway, that long spiel draft-wise, I'm going to go double-dip the defense line still. Draymond had an impact already, and that's one thing I was saying. Mike Green was good in this past game. He just needs to continue to get stronger. Get R. Mason Thomas, more edge talent. And then we got Christian Miller. Christian Miller, definitely an area I want to improve upon with the depth. They need depth on their interior for sure. So they've had a lot of injuries there. Matt Abuki coming, he's going to be having a tough injury, but of course, when you deal with back and neck and stuff like that, it's always scary. So Miller will give them some much needed help right away. And then Max Clare, the Ohio State Buckeye, he gets more and more involved as the season's gone along, and he kind of fits that mold of what works in the NFL, the tight end position. Certainly got the size profile, continued development. He could be a really good tight end and be their Mark Andrews replacement of the future. Especially if they bring back Isaiah Likely and then you bring in Max Clare. That'd be a great 1-2 punch to fill that role once again for this team. So that's where I'm going to finish up the draft for the Ravens and overall for this 3-round mock draft. Let me know what you think. I hope you guys have a really good day. And oh yeah, let's freaking go. We got to get the audibles all set. Oh my. Have a good one. I'll talk to you later.